Hello everyone, my name is Wolfgang, and today, in this video, I want to explain the basic fundamentals of Oni, of his power, how his power interacts with the game, and the peak of his abilities. To begin, I wish to go over the basics. The Oni has two states, Absorption Mode and Blood Fury. Absorption Mode is how Oni begins the match. In this mode, he has 150% movement speed, his base terror radius is 32 meters, and he has default vaulting, braking, and lunge speeds. In Absorption Mode, the Oni is effectively a base M1 killer. Holding the ability button, however, brings up his left arm, which absorbs blood orbs. Absorbing them is what fills up his Fury gauge. Oni's power works on a charges system, where 100 charges grants him his power, Blood Fury. The active ways of getting the charges are as follows. The first and foremost is injuring survivors. When the Oni hits a successful basic attack on a healthy survivor, he gains 40 charges of his power. Further hits on injured survivors, even with the endurance status effect, does not yield any additional charges. The second are blood orbs. When a survivor is injured, they will begin dropping blood orbs. A blood orb is worth around 2.5 charges. Every 4 seconds, they will passively drop 2 blood orbs. Every time they are hooked, fail a skill check, or interact with the environment, they will drop an additional blood orb. There's also a passive way, the passive charge rate. The Oni will passively gain 0.2 charges per second until they cap out at 98 charges. This soft cap exists for the first method as well, as the Oni is required to absorb at least 1 blood orb before he can fully charge up Blood Fury. With just the passive charge rate, it takes 490 seconds, or 8 minutes, to get to the 98 charges required. Blood orbs will be your main way of getting the power, as they will constantly drop around the map from injured survivors. The survivors cannot see blood orbs unless you have an iridescent add-on, and they have a 10-second grace period after getting unhooked that prevents the drop of any additional blood orbs. Blood orbs do not have a fixed lifespan, meaning they stay on the map without a time limit. However, there is an amount limit of 100 blood orbs. Once this limit is reached, the oldest blood orbs start getting replaced by the newest source after you absorb at least 1. The Oni can also absorb and see blood orbs through walls at a range of around 8 meters, depending on vertical distance. While absorbing the blood, the Oni moves at a significantly slower movement speed of 86%. Once the power gauge is filled up, pressing the active ability button gives Oni access to his power, Blood Fury. In my opinion, the creme de la creme of Dead by Daylight's power design, Blood Fury is one of the most fun and balanced powers in the game, allowing Oni to be a tide turner of the match, no matter what point it's at. In Blood Fury, the Oni gains 2 new abilities, the Demon Strike and the Demon Dash. Before I go over the usage and potential of these 2 abilities, let's talk some numbers. It is important to know what your limits are, how long they last, and how you can push through every single one. To start with, it takes 3 seconds for Oni to start Blood Fury, as well as 3 seconds for it to end when you run out of charges. The 100 charges Oni has built up deplete at a rate of 2.2 charges per second, making the base duration of the power 45.5 seconds. For his first ability, Demon Strike is his main way of downing survivors, and it has 2 attack types, the Quick Attack and the Demon Strike itself. There is not much to say about the Quick Attack. Quickly tapping the melee button will make Oni do a sort of basic attack in Fury, but without applying any basic attack related perks, as it is considered a special attack. The Demon Strike, however, is different. Holding the melee button for over 0.33 seconds and up to 2 seconds will charge a Demon Strike. A Demon Strike has a significantly longer lunge range and a one-shot down mechanic. Successfully hitting a survivor with a Demon Strike will put them in dying state, no matter their health. Doing this incurs an animation where the Oni will hit the ground 3 times with his kanabo, and it lasts for roughly 3 seconds. During these 3 seconds, however, it is not over. If there is another survivor and they go near the Oni while he's hitting the ground, they too will be downed. Also, you can ever so slightly move your camera left and right while in this attack. Missing a Demon Strike incurs a 2-second penalty, while the Oni recovers from bumping a wall sliding the ground. In these animations, it's not possible to down a survivor even if they walk into it. Hitting a survivor that has the endurance status effect also incurs the triple strike, so if survivors are too brazen, they can be hit through endurance, or if their next to endurance affected survivor. Demon Strike also has an increased braking speed for pallets and breakable walls, which is useful in helping against loops and very strong pallets like Shaq. His second ability is Demon Dash, which is primarily used as a mobility ability. Holding the button, it charges up for 2 seconds before Oni starts to dash. It functions similarly to the Hillbilly's chainsaw sprint, in which the Oni moves forward at an incredibly fast speed of 195%. Unlike the Hillbilly, however, the Oni does not get stopped for hitting an obstacle. Instead, he glides on it. Demon Dash also features a very short cooldown when you release of it, for about a second, and an increased turning radius compared to Hillbilly. Demon Dash also lets the Oni use Demon Strike. Pressing the melee button while holding the ability button will perform a near-instant Demon Strike, downing anyone caught by it. Downing a survivor in Blood Fury by any means, either the Quick Attack or Demon Strike, will incur a 7-second blood consumption penalty, removing 15 charges every time you down a survivor. Picking up a survivor that is in the dying state, however, or grabbing one, will immediately end your Blood Fury and keep any remaining charges in the bar. With all of the basics covered, the numbers crunched and realized, we move on to the next part. Understanding the Oni's power, how perks and add-ons help you, as well as some common strategies used to help you get familiar with his power. Now we are on to the second part of the guide. This is where we begin to understand when and where to use Oni's power, how to use it properly, and going over add-ons and basic perks that can help you in learning the power further, as well as going over some tips and tricks for getting the Oni Adept. Firstly, when and where should you use the Oni's power? Well, I would say that depends, but in the case where you're learning Oni, I recommend that you use it cautiously. Every second spent in power is a second you pressure survivors, making them go for potentially risky heals to counter your absorption mode, or trying to distance from each other as to counter your snowballing potential. Thus, the safest way to get value out of your power will be using it to quickly end chases or pressure multiple survivors off of a heal or a generator repair. There is no shame in using Fury to down just one survivor, even if they're injured. Your increased mobility and lethality can help you close chases out quicker and build up your snowball. Secondly, how should you use it? If you've ever seen an Oni main play, most of the time they will go for the flashy and impressive flicks and smooth curves. They never stop. While we'll get to that point in the guide, I want to express just how important it is to know your own limits before you push them. You don't need to be constantly demon dashing and go for those insane flicks. You can move at base speed and just use Demon Strike's enhanced lunge range to close out a loop, or potentially far window that the survivors can reach. Letting go of Demon Dash is only a second cooldown, and it doesn't punish you at all. Getting comfortable with Oni's power is your primary objective, and in this learning experience you may and will lose some games. It's normal like that for every killer, and Oni isn't exactly easy to begin with. But is there anything to make this experience easier? Of course. Let's quickly go over some builds that can help you learn Oni. Note, while you can play the game however you wish, I do not recommend using any of the add-ons to begin with, as Oni's base kit is more than serviceable, and using certain add-ons can throw off any muscle memory you may be building up. With that being said, let's move on to some builds. Now, as to preface this, anything can work on Oni, realistically. He is not a killer that is heavily reliant on a set of perks, as they only enhance his gameplay experience. I will showcase a few builds that are beginning friendly, that help alleviate any frustrations that an Oni player might have in the beginning. These are the builds that anyone can use, as it only has base game perks from the free killers available, and is very useful in Oni. The first set is Enduring, Brutal Strength, Shadowborn, and Sloppy Butcher. This is a general build to begin with, as it helps you in chases. Enduring and Brutal Strength is quintessential because as Oni you will be eating pallets a lot, due to people attempting to prevent your power from being used. Shadowborn is very useful for curving, or learning how to use Demon Dash, as you have an extra field of view, and can somewhat reliably track people with it. Of course, it's personal preference, maybe you don't like the increased field of view. And Sloppy Butcher is a really good perk for Oni, especially with its recent buff, meaning that you can force survivors to heal more often, and heal a lot slower, thus allowing you more blood. The second set is Enduring, Sloppy Butcher, Fearmonger, and Tinkerer. A build similar to the last, however, replacing some of the chase perks with info perks. And Tinkerer is a great perk to have on Oni because his fast speed and power can really help pressure gens that are about to be popped. It does help quite a lot. Great info perks, decent all-rounder build. Now onto the second set of builds. Those are the free perks covered. But what about builds that have no limit on one character I own? I got you. Let's go over some effective builds that utilize a variety of different killers' perks. The first one is Lethal Pursuer, Enduring, Spirit Fury, and an aura reading perk of your choice. This first set was my main build for the longest time. Lethal Pursuer effectively helps alleviate Oni's early game by showing you where everyone is, and you should use this info to go where there are 2 survivors or more, as each injure will give you 40 charges, letting you get your power very quickly at the start of a match. Enduring and Spirit Fury complement each other extremely well, as pallets are very strong against an Oni both in and out of his power. There's also a rare bug that happens when you Demon Strike as you're about to get stunned by a pallet, and then Fury just removes the entire stun and you move like nothing happened. Oh my fucking god, the bug happened. Simply play better. I don't know what to tell you. The second build is Monitor and Abuse, Corrupt Intervention, Infectious Fright, and Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. A build inspired by old Scott John's build, it utilizes Oni's snowball potential and fury as it extends your terror radius to 40 meters while in a chase, synergizing with Infectious Fright and revealing nearby survivors. The 16-meter decrease in terror radius out of chase also helps sneak up on unsuspecting survivors, as the Oni's chase team is rather quiet in the first few seconds. Corrupt Intervention does a similar job to Lethal Pursuer, and with the recent nerf to Corrupt, it's entirely possible to swap it out. Your choice. Use whatever feels more comfortable to you. The fourth perk can be reserved for a Gen Regression perk. I recommend the newer Eruption or Pain Resonance, as both reward the Oni for getting downs in Fury, but in different ways, especially with Eruption requiring you to kick a gen previously. And for the third set, we have Undying, Retribution, Lethal Pursuer, and Barbecue and Chili or Darkness Revealed. However, another unorthodox set, this is currently one of the most valuable loadouts possible, and they complement the Oni rather well. Every single one of these perks benefits from Lethal's passive and can help you locate and plan when to direct your Fury. With some possible basic builds showcased here, I want to quickly go over his Adepts. Adepts for Killer are always currently a pain, so first and foremost I recommend doing them after the Great Reset on the 13th of every month. It doesn't reset your rank or MMR, but it lowers your grades, and they have lower Merciless Killer requirements. Oni's 3 default perks are Blood Echo, Nemesis, and Zancian Tactics. As you can see, all of his perks are worthless. They have great build potential with slowdown and obsession-based builds, but for Oni's Adept, you're good as perkless. Zancian, however, is somewhat decent, as it can help you acquire map knowledge and game sense, as well as guess which loop the survivor is most likely to go next. During an Adept trial, you may also get some Blood Echo value, but don't expect much. The first and biggest tip I can give for Adept is to go for chases. The Chaser emblem is a very difficult one to obtain for Oni, especially when you have his power. So to start, even if you get your power super early, hold on to it until you're confident you have multiple Blood Orb reserves as well as a multi-down value. Another difficult aspect of this Adept is the Gatekeeper emblem. No gen slowdown or regression or even gen blocking perks can help you here, and the lack of info of survivors' locations is hugely detrimental. Thus, I recommend that in absorption mode you pressure survivors off gens as much as you can as you build up your power. Malicious and Devote emblems are rather easy to get. Going for a 12-hook game, make sure you break any and all breakables when you can, and don't proxy camp the hooks and you should get it. You can get Merciless with an escape or with gates powered in the lower grade thresholds, so it's more lenient in a way where you can mess up but not get fully punished. Our next segment, we'll talk about the add-ons, and here I wish to present a somewhat biased tier list. Now let's talk about some add-ons. Starting down here from D tier, the bottom of the bottom is Rotting Rope, which increases Blood Orb aura rating by 2 meters. It's incredibly lackluster for an add-on slot, as you can already absorb up to 8 meters with the default absorption range. The next two are Polished Maidite and Shattered Wakizashi. Incredibly useless add-ons, they increase the passive charge rate by 0.1 and 0.2 charges per second respectively. Waste of slots, in my opinion. At the top of the D tier resides the Iridescent Family Crest add-on. Now, not everyone will agree with me here, but it is incredibly lackluster for an Iridescent add-on. While in Blood Fury, missing a Demon Strike will cause survivors in a 24-meter range to scream and reveal their location, similarly to Infectious Fright without having to down somebody. I find this add-on very situational, as it also requires you to hit the ground. Missing a Demon Strike by hitting a wall or object does not retain the effect. Now on to C tier. In C tier, every single add-on is in the same level. Not one is better than the other, as they all affect Blood Orbs in a slightly beneficial way. The Child Wooden Sword increases Blood Aura reading range by 3 meters. It has this weird bug where it can't replicate consistently, where it shows blood orbs that spawn when you're too close to a wall no matter the distance, but that doesn't warrant use of it alone. It does, however, help tracking injured survivors in absorption mode much better than the rope does. The Blackened Toenail and Bloody Sash on their own are not that good to run, but in combination they let the Oni move at almost 4.4 meters per second when he's in absorption mode, which helps you when you're chasing someone and milking them for all their blood. Paper Lantern is a rather niche add-on that speeds absorption itself, but makes the blood where you absorb more blood orbs than you need at the tip of your power more common, so I really use it myself. And, last but not least, the other iridescent, Rangero's Bloody Glove. It's certainly a unique one. It buffs the Oni while he's in absorption mode. The survivors can see blood orbs they drop and can absorb them themselves. Doing so gives the Oni 2 seconds of aura reading per blood orb absorbed, up to 4 seconds with Lethal Pursuer. On to the next tier, we have the B tier. At the bottom resides the Chipped Saihai. It grants 6 seconds of Blood Fury, and while it's not terrible, it's a very mediocre add-on and requires mixing with some others to benefit itself more. Another opinionated pick, the Cracked Sakatsuki. The Cracked Sakatsuki decreases the activation and deactivation time of Fury by half a second, which is noticeable and really does help throughout the match if you use Fury a lot. Right above it is the Wooden Oni Mask. It is the first Blood Orb drop rate add-on, as it increases the passive drop rate frequency by 14% and makes the survivors drop an additional Blood Orb for each interaction. It's not bad, but it shines when combined with Splintered Hold, which we'll talk about in a moment. At the top of B tier lies the Kanayanzin Talisman. With it being the first movement speed add-on, it doesn't add a whole lot, only 0.64 meters per second. Putting it in B tier with all the other requires synergy to be better add-ons. Moving up a tier, we have reached the top one for now, A tier. In this tier are the most common and most valuable add-ons to run, no matter your skill level as Oni. First one is the Yamaoka Sashimono. With it being the second tier duration add-on adding a whopping 8 seconds, it allows you to get an additional down in Fury and can be synergized well with other duration based add-ons, but stands up on its own just as fine. Right above the Yamaoka Sashimono lies the Splintered Hull, the second Blood Orb drop rate add-on. It increases the frequency of survivors dropping Blood Orbs by 33%, as well as making the survivors drop an additional Blood Orb every interaction. Pairing this add-on with Wooden Oni Mask or duration or speed add-on higher in the tier is a very beneficial decision, as it will allow you to get your power more frequently from injured survivors, letting you split pressure and build it up again. Above sits the tier Sokutenigui, my second favorite add-on. It removes a whole 4 seconds, or around 9 charges, of the consumption penalty, allowing you to stay in longer in power and apply more pressure. Near the middle of A tier, we have the Scalp Top Knot. The once revered add-on of every Oni, the Top Knot reduces the charge rate of Demon Dash by half a second, allowing you to quickly start it up and catch up to survivors. Best paired with movement speed add-ons, but I would recommend to a newer Oni player, as the half second is noticeable and can throw you off your curve timing. Use it when you're more comfortable at loops with Demon Dash, or when you just want to keep closing the distance and don't mind Demon Striking at loops. At the tip of the A tier are two of the best add-ons Oni has, Lion Fang and Akito's Crutch. Lion Fang increases the duration of Fury by a whopping 10 seconds. Pairing it with any other added duration add-on can give you over a minute of Fury, plenty of downs in mobility and power. And just above it lies Akito's Crutch, the fastest speed add-on at 1.0 meters per second in Fury. Pairing it with the Talisman, they only can move at 234% movement speed. Oni has a very strong lineup of add-ons, with every single one being valued by somebody. Constant combination options leaves them to be used by you to tailor your personal gameplay style as the Oni. For example, do you find it too hard to keep your reserves up? Double blood drop add-ons will make sure even in chase, you can get your power quicker. Don't have Lethal Pursuer, or having trouble injuring multiple survivors? The Bloody Sash and Blackened Toenail can help you absorb blood in chase while keeping up with the survivor at loops. What to quickly close the gap in power? Use the Top Knot and any speed add-on. There are many viable possibilities, so feel free to experiment with whichever combo you wish to use. Let's go over to some tips. Tip number 1. Be wary of survivors that like to spin in place, as this can bait your Demon Strike's auto-aim, making you miss often. The best solution is to attack them from the side opposite of their spin, and while not 100% proof, it works often enough to help out against the more skilled players. Tip number 2. Do not hold W in Demon Dash, as this lowers your turning radius for negligible speed, so do so only when making distance. Tip number 3. Be careful of corner attacks. Always keep a keen eye on where the survivor is going, as a skilled survivor is bound to quickly hide behind a corner and be crouched to avoid you in your dashing. Tip number 4. Do not be afraid to let go of the ability button, and just loop normally with Demon Strike. It's all part of the learning process. Tip number 5. You should know that breakable walls and drop pallets have a sort of vacuum with Oni's Demon Strike. So much so that a survivor can crouch by one or even vault a pallet and you won't be able to down them. To counter this, Demon Strike early as the hitbox is quite large, and with some luck, you can hit them from the same side of the pallet as they vaulted instead of the pallet itself. Tip number 6. Remember that the Oni is a snowball killer. The match is not over until everyone's dead or out of the trial. Keep cool, collected, and be aware of your ability to turn the match in your favor at any point. And tip number 7. Most importantly, remember to have fun. Dead by Daylight is a decently hard game for both sides, and learning a new killer is always challenging. Don't beat yourself up if you lose. Make sure you keep mental notes of every mistake you make, and work on correcting them at future trials. That's all I can say for now. But there's always more, isn't there? What happens next, you may wonder? Surely this isn't all. You'd be correct, because it isn't. Held back revealing some of this, until now. The basics are covered. What there is to show and understand has been understood. So now, let me show you how to master the Oni. Nice corner attack. Oh, she didn't know what hit her, that speed! What? Oh my lord. As you just saw there, the Oni is a killer with very deep gameplay. He has the ability to do too much in a trial with his power, and he is the most dangerous when he can. Let's go some of these set abilities. First up, we have the A&D tech. Due to how the game works, spamming the strafe keys or wiggling the left stick as you're moving in Demon Dash will slow you down, allowing you to make sharper turns and precise movements, such as doorways, shack or indoor maps, or tight 90-degree loops. It's very useful for many skill levels, but the reason I put it in this segment of the guide is because it, just like everything else in Oni, synergizes with his ability to such an extent that it allows him to be way more lethal. Lethal how? Well, lethal with flicks. What is a flick? A flick is a sudden and quick movement of the camera in any given direction. The Oni has two types of those, the 90-degree flick and the 180. The 90-degree flick is the easiest of the two. All you need to do is flick your camera in a direction during a Demon Dash as you press the Demon Strike button. This is rather easy to do at any sensitivity. The window for these flicks is 0.33 seconds, which, if you recall, is the charge time for Demon Strike. It may not seem like a lot, but trust me, it's plenty of time. The 180-degree flick is the harder one to perform, requiring more precision, timing, and just general game sense. How do you do a 180? It's not as simple, but there are two main ways. If your sensitivity is lower, flicking up while turning your camera in Demon Dash as you're about to strike is the harder way, as it requires really precise timing and a lot of practice. The second is just turning up your sensitivity. If you have a mouse with an adjustable DPI switch or play at high sensitivity, performing a 180 is rather easy. Just flick your mouse in Demon Dash and hit the Demon Strike button. More often than not, you will easily hit a 180. With a high DPI, you do not need to flick up, and it's entirely personal preference if you do or do not. I suggest practicing these in a custom match. The best way is trying to 180-degree flick the shack window from the shack door. Plenty of space in trial attempts, your goal is to hit the window or survivor vaulting it if you have friends to help you. But how does the A&D tech incorporate these flicks? A&D before a flick will allow you to do some extremely sharp turns, allowing you to use Demon Dash at any loop in the game. With enough practice and knowledge of what distance you can hit, you can get some nasty downs, especially with the Kanabo's extended hitbox. On to the next aspect of this mastery, perfect curving. What is a perfect curve? It's a personal moniker I use for them, but there are many other names. Essentially, a perfect curve is a curve you don't stop, never letting go of the ability button no matter if you miss the target or not. Think of it as playing Blight using bounce logic. If you run past the survivor, just keep going and use a pivot point or wall to turn around. Be patient and reserving. This can also help you sharpen your game sense and prediction ability against the survivors. I would recommend you start learning this first alongside the A&D tech to help you on your way to mastery. Another way to help you with all of these is knowing how much you can turn. Sure, the A&D tech slows you down and helps you go through more narrow passes, but what about this bounce logic turning? Well, it shares a reason as to why you would flick up when you try to get the 180-degree flicks. Oni Dash works in such a way that looking up or down as you're moving your camera left or right applies additional turn radius. Combining A&D, gliding on a wall or obstacle, and this camera movement will allow you to essentially turn yourself around, sometimes almost instantly if you have speed add-ons or a high enough sensitivity. But what about some dirty hidden secret techs no one knows about? Sadly, with Oni there aren't many exploitable techs besides the ones that you can't use. He's very balanced and every map has something against him, making him fair. Except for that. Yeah, you saw that correctly. A demon strike through a barricaded window. I theorize it's got something to do with a gap in the windows that allows a part of demon strike hitbox to go through. Is it useful? No. Is it cool? Yeah. I've only ever done it in customs and do not know of every single window that's possible to hit through with this, but it's seemingly a feature of the Realm Reborn maps, namely the Macmillan Estate. One more thing that I need to mention is that if you have a keen eye, you might have caught on that the add-ons tier list is missing one. This is intentional. This add-on in question is the Incline, my favorite Oni add-on, and one I think is a bit too strong. It removes half a second from the start of Note of Fury, just like the cracked Sekatsuki, but also removes 2 seconds from the blood consumption penalty. Pairing this with either the cracked Sekatsuki is an insane quality of life, as you can pop into your power before an unhook is done, allowing you to strike down multiple survivors in a crucial situation, as well as ending the power faster, meaning you get to pick up survivors faster, building pressure. Another pairing is its incredible synergy with Tier Suktinigui, which allows 6 seconds to be removed from the consumption penalty. This effectively nullifies the consumption penalty and allows you to get up to 11 downs in a single use of Fury, including the cooldowns and the times it takes to reach a survivor on average. Compared to double duration giving you a minute, but a comparatively limited amount of downs in Fury, it is the best add-on combo for the Oni, easily being my most used one. The reason I'm telling you this is that it is a great add-on combination to learn mastering the Oni. You pop your power a bit quicker, and you can keep going for downs over and over again, making sure you punish survivors that get too brazen. Which leaves us with this segment. You've learned the Oni, you understand his power, and now you're on your way to mastering it. What then? Well, tailor the killer to how you want to play. Use the builds and add-on combinations that make Oni the most fun and effective for you. Go for crazy flashy flicks or keep on oppressive curves. Maybe even play M1 only for a match while using Renjiro's Bloody Glove. Do whatever you wish to do, as the Oni has a very wide array of possibilities and varieties in playstyle. If you're currently curious about my personal build, here's what I run. Lethal, Enduring, Shadowborn, and Fire Up with Incline and Tier Suktinigui. Build isn't exactly meta, but it tailors Oni to my playstyle, using my power as often as possible, getting as many downs as possible, while the perks alleviate the problems of absorption rather well, especially with Fire Up helping with pickup and vault speeds. This, in turn, concludes my Oni guide. If you enjoyed it, make sure to let me know in the comments below. If this guide got you to start learning Oni, or if you already played him and learned something new, be sure to also let me know. My credentials for all of this and my opinions and knowledge are my own, as I formed them with almost 1,000 hours in Oni with over 7,000 downs in Fury, according to a DVD stats tracking website. I do not claim to be the best Oni out there, and you're always free to disagree with any point I had made. Make sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitch, as I am live streaming some Oni gameplay, and maybe some other killers that I might find fun. Till next time, take care everyone.